Android 16, also codenamed Baklava, is almost ready to go, and just as usual, you just barely received the Android 15 update, so right on schedule. In this video, I'll go over every new feature found within Android 16 thus far, both big and small, and also talk about any possible upcoming ones based on rumors and leaks found underneath the hood. Now currently, Android 16 is still in the third beta version, so nothing's set in stone yet, but since it's one of the last few updates left, and with there being a bunch of leaks and rumors on the internet, we have a pretty good idea of what's to come. My good friend and Android expert Mohammad over at Android Authority was the one who dug up all these new features and leaks that I'm about to talk about. Seriously, this guy's a legend. I'll drop his Patreon link down below so that you can show him some support, because finding all these new hidden features wasn't easy. Anyway, let's start with all the big changes. First up, Android 16 makes it so much harder for scammers to hack your phone while you're on a phone call with them. If some sketchy caller tries to block you into sideloading an app, your phone will straight up block you from enabling sideloading permissions mid-call. Okay sir, so all you need to do now is just toggle on that setting, and then you can download this app that I'm going to send you so that way you can get $1,000. Trust me.
Yeah man, sorry, my phone won't let me enable it.
I'm sorry, sir? And it's not just sideloading. Android 16 also locks down other sketchy permissions during calls, like the accessibility one. Scammers love abusing those, so Google's finally shutting that door. Thank goodness. This next one's genius. It's called notification cooldown, and basically, if you start to get bombarded with a ton of notifications within a short time frame, Android 16 will automatically lower the volume and shrink alerts for a minute. The only things that won't get cooled down are incoming calls, alarms, or any priority conversations you set. It comes in handy when someone starts to blow up your phone. Google's also made storing your contacts way less annoying. Before, your contacts auto-sync to your Google account, and it was pretty difficult to change them. But now there's a whole new page called Contact Storage where you can pick exactly where they go. Want them to sync up on a different Google account? Just choose it. Prefer keeping them only on your device? You have that option too. Gives you a bit more control. On top of that, the Settings app also got a glow up. The search bar is a lot bigger now, and all the menus are neatly grouped into sections. Some stuff got moved around too, like the accessibility got bumped to the bottom, while the About Phone menu is now chilling in the middle. Honestly, I'm into it. The important stuff is front and center, and the less used settings menus are tucked away towards the bottom. Pretty clean. Just a quick side note though, this new setting layout already went live in one of the newer beta builds of Android 15, QPR1 Beta 2 to be exact. But it's even more likely to be on track to officially arrive to most other OEMs for the Android 16 release. And by the way, throughout this video, there are a few more features that also got released in the Android 15 QPR Beta build, but since they only made it to the Pixel so far and not a lot of people really know about them, I decided why not also go over those new changes as well to keep you fully in the loop. Thumbs up for that. This next one's really just for the Pixels because pretty much every other phone out there already gives you an easy way to view this without needing to download a third-party app. There is now a battery health section that shows you your battery's condition and remaining capacity. My Pixel 9 Pro XL is sitting at 97% after almost a year, which, not bad. About time we got this. Big news, if you use health apps, Android 16 lets them read and write medical records through Health Connect, and they'll use the same standard format, FHIR, which most doctors and hospitals already rely on. No more scattered, messy health data, everything's finally speaking the same language. The privacy dashboard just got a bit more useful too. Instead of only seeing an overview of your app permissions from the last 24 hours, you can now check a full 7-day history. So if you're wondering what permissions are being used the most throughout the entire week, now you'll know. There's also a new users widget, which is pretty self-explanatory. It just lets you easily switch users from the home screen if you've got multiple user profiles on your device. The widget itself is still pretty glitchy, but it still works. And speaking of widgets, we also made some inspired around the Android 16 update. They look incredible, are very interactive, customizable, and really spice up the home screen on another level, especially since we also made these wallpapers to go along nicely with the widgets. Only on my Patreon, link down below. If you're still rocking the classic 3-button navigation, first off, why? And secondly, you now get a sneak peek of the previous page when you long press the back button. It's pretty much the same animation that we've had when swiping on the edge of the screen to go back when using the gesture navigation. And here's the real one. All new and updated apps targeting Android 16 will have this by default. No more waiting for developers to opt in, like in Android 15. So most apps should feel a lot more smoother when navigating them in the future. This one's long overdue. You can now unlock your phone with your fingerprint even when the screen's off. No need to wake it up first, just tap and go. You just need to enable this toggle called Screen Off Fingerprint Unlock, and then you're good to go. Yeah, some OEMs like Samsung already do this, I know, but now it's built right into Android itself, which is pretty nice. Alright, let's talk about the smaller but still cool changes in Android 16. First off, the Android Easter egg got a fresh new logo which looks really nice, but it's still got the same old Rocket game. Come on Google, mix it up. The only new thing is an auto button that lets the rocket fly itself, and if you exit the app, you'll get a notification showing you the progress of how far away the rocket is from the nearest planet. Neat, but I mean, we need a new minigame already, even if it's based around space. Android 16 also lets you change your preferred measurement throughout the entire system, so if you'd prefer to switch between the metric or imperial system, no matter where you live, you can do that. When you reboot, you'll now see some sleek material shapes dancing around as your phone wakes up. It's a small touch, but it makes booting up feel a lot more polished. Let's be real, smartphones are crazy advanced these days, but they still can't always tell you who the heck keeps blowing up your phone with random calls and texts. Or what about when you're buying or selling stuff online? Wouldn't it be nice to know that you're not getting scammed? Or worst case scenario, accidentally meeting up with someone sketchy. And hey, maybe there's someone new in your life and you just want to do a little digging to stay safe. Well, guess what? That's where Circle comes in, the sponsor of this video. Circle gives you all that deep dive info you wish you had in a matter of seconds. It's only available in the US, but it's super easy to use. Just type in whatever you know, a name, phone number, email, address, whatever, and boom, you get a full report, criminal records, contact info, their education, criminal past, debt history, and more. Oh, and it's not just people. You can check car VINs before buying it to get its full history, see if there's any offenders in your neighborhood, yikes. Or if you ever get a sketchy email, you can check that too, just to see if it's legit or not. The best part is that Circle is 100% legal because it pulls all of its data from US public records, millions of them. So chances are you'll find what you need. So if you want to uncover the truth about someone all in one place, just circle it. And don't forget to use my link in the description to get 30% off. Now for all my fellow physical keyboard users out there, Android 16 brings some nice upgrades. You can finally customize your own keyboard shortcuts for things like taking screenshots, opening split screen mode, launching your favorite apps, and more. There's also this new repeat keys setting that's also very helpful. Just turn it off and then hold down a key and it'll only register a single press instead of spamming letters. Super handy if you have trouble lifting your fingers quickly after pressing keys. Oh, and Google also reorganized some of the keyboard settings menus with better visuals and more instructions too. It's looking like there will even be a new keyboard shortcut menu added to the side navigation rail to make it easier to use on tablets. Within the accessibility menu, there's a new outline text option that adds high contrast backgrounds behind all text, either black or white, making everything way easier to read for folks with visual impairments. It's a big improvement over the previous text outlining option. Another small but welcome change is that you can now remap that double press power button action. Instead of always having it open the camera, you can set it to launch Google Wallet instead. Even little things, like when you're sharing the Wi-Fi, the QR code also got a makeover. It now has a nice material use styling instead of just being plain old black and white. And when you check your Bluetooth device batteries, like your headphones, you'll see these new rings around the icons showing how much juice is left. It's all about the details. So yeah, while these might not be headline grabbing features, they're all thoughtful little upgrades that make Android just that much nicer to use every day. But hang tight because at the end I'll be going over all the new upcoming changes coming to Android 16 that are way more exciting towards the end of the video too. Alright, now here's what Google's been cooking up under the hood with Android 16. Of course, a lot of this is pretty technical developer stuff, but I'll break down the changes that actually matter to us regular users and explain it in terms that aren't too complicated. First up, improving the adaptivity for more apps on larger screens. This is huge for anyone using a foldable or tablet, because Android 16 is finally forcing more apps to properly adapt to these larger displays. Google's doing this by removing a bunch of restrictions on screen orientation and resizing. What does that mean for you? A lot less ugly black bars on the sides of unoptimized apps. Your foldable experience is about to get a lot better. Now, here's something cool for the video files out there. Android 16 is adding support for Samsung's new APB codec. That's Advanced Professional Video for those keeping score. It's a codec that delivers video quality that's almost raw level, compresses footage more efficiently, and runs better on mobile devices. And it's pretty nice that your Android will soon be able to handle that natively. Speaking of visuals, Android 16 will finally bring proper HDR screenshots. When you capture an HDR image or video, all those enhanced brightness levels and wider color ranges will actually start to show up in your screenshots. No more flat, washed out looking screen grabs from your HDR content. Google is also making it easier for app developers to implement some features we've already seen. I mean, remember adaptive refresh rate from Android 15? Now apps can support it even better since there are some new APIs for it. The photo picker is also getting more customizable too. Developers can add search functions and control how it appears. Oh, and here's a niche new change, but an important one too. Android 16 now supports vertical text at the basic level, which is pretty great for East Asian languages that traditionally write from top to bottom. At the very beginning, for those wondering why Android 16's dessert name is baklava and not a dessert name that starts with the letter W, like Android Waffle, according to Mishal, it's because Google completely overhauled how the Android OS is built by creating a completely new development model called Trunk Stable Project. And this process should speed up Android updates, so I guess it also made perfect sense to reset the alphabet count. That's just the tip of the iceberg though. There are a ton more small tweaks and improvements under the surface within Android 16. If you're the type who loves diving into the technical details, I'll drop a link to an Android Authority article that does a deep dive on all these new under the hood changes in the description. Alright, now for the juicy stuff, all the potential game changers coming to Android 16 based on leaks and rumors dug up from the code. And once again, a huge shout out to Mishal Rahman over at Android Authority for uncovering all this. Seriously, that guy is awesome. The first and most exciting leak is we might be looking at a completely redesign of the notification shade and quick settings panel. Picture this. Swipe down from the left side of your screen for notifications, and from the right side for your quick settings panel. The panels won't stretch all the way down anymore, they'll stop right where the content ends, so you can still see what's happening in your app underneath. No more wasted space. But here's where it gets really interesting. You'll also be able to resize your quick setting tiles, making some smaller than others in a 1x1 layout. And within the tile editor, they could be organized by category just like in the settings app, which would make finding the right tile way easier. There's also talk that Google might bring back full screen menus in the internet and Bluetooth tiles instead of those that just pop up as a window. Though honestly, this one isn't as concrete as it seems Google keeps going back and forth on that one in the code. Another interesting change is something called live updates. Imagine a little pill that sticks to the top left of your status bar when you've got something ongoing, like a timer, GPS directions, or a food delivery. Tap it and it expands to show you the notification with a progress bar. Sound familiar? Yeah, it's kind of like iOS's live activities or Samsung's live notifications. But Google's taking it a step further by letting developers customize the progress bar with different segments and icons. So instead of just a plain pointer, you might see a little car icon for your Uber ride. And there's also color-coded segments showing you things like traffic delays for when you're navigating through Google Maps. Developers are going to have a field day with this one. For all you tablet users out there, Android 16 might finally bring proper desktop-style windowing. We're talking overlapping, resizable app windows, just like on a computer. The taskbar would show you which apps are running, and you can tap them to minimize them, not just close them. It's about time that Android tablets got this level of multitasking. Split screen is getting some love too, especially for foldables and tablets. So to start it off, there's a new mode that lets you stretch one app to take up almost the entire screen, and then you can tap on the other app to swap their sizes instantly. And for larger screens, you might be able to run 3 apps at once, with 2 taking up most of the space and the third one tucked away on the side, ready to be brought forward. It's similar to what Oppo and OnePlus do with their open canvas feature, and honestly, I'm here for it. Now, not every potential change is a winner. Google's toying with redesigning the volume panel, and well, let's just say I'm not a huge fan. From the leaked screenshots, the volume sliders are thinner in the expanded view, and the volume bar is more square-like, which doesn't even follow Google's curvature material theme at all. Personally, I just hope they keep the current pill-shaped sliders, or better yet, give us floating bars that don't take over the entire screen just to adjust the volume. Sometimes simpler is better. And speaking of audio, Bluetooth audio sharing might finally become a real thing. It popped up in the first developer preview, and honestly, it's about time. Imagine being able to share your music or podcast with a friend wirelessly on their headphones. Their headphones just need to also support LE audio, which is getting a lot more common these days. No more awkwardly passing one earbud to your friends so that you can both listen. For the screensaver mode, you'll no longer need to charge your device anymore just to activate it. There could be a new trigger on the way called Postured, which activates the screensaver by just placing your phone on a stand and letting it sit there for a moment. So finally, a good way to use that phone stand that's been collecting dust on your desk. Another interesting one is this new toggle called Make More Apps Dark. It briefly showed up in a beta build of Android 14, but never actually made it to a public stable release. Now, it once again appeared in the first beta of Android 16. This would force dark mode on apps that don't natively support it. But of course, it showed up in the first beta of Android 16 only to disappear on the next one. Still, the fact that Google is working on it gives me a lot more hope too. Lock screen widgets might be making a comeback too, though through a limited way. Unlike the Pixel tablet where you can swipe them in anytime, on phones, they'd only appear through the screensaver mode. So you'd need to have your phone be docked or charging to see them. Not perfect, but hey, it's a start. If you don't want to wait though, there's already an app that does this. It's called Widget Screensaver, and I've already mentioned this before in my best Android app series. So seriously, get subscribed if you haven't. I'm always finding hidden gems like that on my channel. Now here's where things get wild. Google's been working on a terminal app that could let you run a full Linux virtual machine right on your phone. Mishal actually got Doom running through it, because of course he did. This could open up all sorts of possibilities for running Linux apps on Android. Nerds, rejoice! For those who use their phones with external displays, Android 16 might finally give us proper multi-screen positioning. You'll be able to arrange your phone's display relative to your monitor, just like Windows does. If your monitor is to the left, you can drag your phone's screen to the right in the settings. Your cursor will even move seamlessly between screens. This could make desktop mode on native Android actually usable. And for customization fans, Google's cooking up some serious upgrades for home screen and lock screen personalization. For instance, the wallpaper and style section is getting a complete overhaul. What's also new here is that you'll also be able to customize the icon shapes on your home screen. So if you'd like to make them turn into a hexagon or a star or this ghost shape, you can. For the lock screen, you'll even have some new clock styles to choose from. You'll even be able to customize the font of the lock screen by changing its weight and width, rounding it out, or even making it slanted. You might even be able to minimize notifications to just show icons like Samsung does. They also discovered that Google could be working on a way to let you easily jot down notes through Google Keep on your lock screen within Android tablets. And lastly, Mishal even spotted code for a giant Gemini pill button on the lock screen, because apparently we need even more ways to summon AI. Then on the home screen, there's a possibility that you'll even be able to long press an app's icon and then open it in a floating bubble window. Kind of like how it works with priority conversations right now. Even cooler, you'll be able to stash these bubbles off to the side when you're not using them. Kind of like how you can do so with picture-in-picture mode. Now here's one that'll save your sanity if you're like me and have multiple phones. You know that awful moment when you dig out an old phone from your drawer, turn it on, and suddenly it starts blowing up with weeks old notifications? Well, Google's finally fixing this by automatically silencing notifications older than 2 weeks. These ancient alerts may still show up, but they won't make a sound or vibrate, and their contents will be hidden. Thank goodness, right? For all you frequent travelers out there, Android 16 might add a handy time zone change notification. It'll ping you whenever your phone automatically updates your time zone, so you're never caught off guard when crossing time zones. Google's also testing something called Even Dimmer. Yeah, I know we already have an extra dim option in the accessibility settings, but this newer version is a bit smarter. It only kicks in when your brightness bar is at its lowest point, and when you have the adaptive brightness enabled, it'll automatically turn off when your surroundings get brighter. Now the current extra dim feature, you've got to manually toggle it off, which is pretty hard to do when it starts to get really bright in your room. This newer version sounds like it works a lot more seamlessly. So as you can tell, Android 16 isn't packed with mind-blowing new features just yet, but Google's clearly cooking up some big upcoming changes to the OS. Between the leaks, code teases, and half-finished features popping up in and out of betas, it feels like they're gearing up for a major shift, and I'm sure it's going to be very soon. If you'd like to try out the Android 16 update for yourself on your Pixel device, I'll leave a link down below so that you can join the beta program. Anyway, tap this video right here to learn about the previous Android 15 update, or this one to learn about 20 exclusive Samsung features that no other phones have. Drop a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video and found it to be helpful. Thanks for sticking around to the end, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Kapow!